Once I had the right leader, it really opened up our ability to hunt. So instead of just praying that the right lead came in, it allowed us to go upstream. I spent probably well over $1 million trying to learn that lesson. I would say if I'm going to say anything in this interview that people should listen to, it's this what I'm about to say right now.
Every year that you guys have been running, you've been growing revenue, and this year you're doubling down.
I was a little bit more resistant to bring the sales all in-house. I should have done that earlier.
Welcome back to another episode of the Agency Growth Club. I'm your host, Josh Peacock. In today's episode, we're diving deep into something really exciting. We'll be covering 3 game-changing topics, like how a leading agency scaled to a $22 million in revenue, the truth about hiring top-tier sales talent, and the critical lessons about product market fit in the agency space. And stick around until the end because we're going to go and reveal a surprising insight about geographic exclusivity that most agency owners get completely wrong. So today I'm joined by Dreyer, the founder of Rankings.io, who's grown his agency for 12 consecutive years, and they just doubled their revenue this year. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Awesome. So we're on. So first of all, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So my first question is so Rankings.io, massive firm. You guys have been running for nearly 12 years now. I'm sure you guys have an example of a significant growing pain you bumped into, and how did you navigate your way through it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Many growing pains, right? I would say one that most agencies struggle with is outbound sales. So we initially tried to outsource that. We had a couple vendors that we used, and after large investments, and I'm for those that know me, I'm not just like a dip your toe in to see if something works. Like I'm a let's do this. So like we spent around 40, 50 grand a month with one company. We had eight outbound sales reps. We did the same thing, 40, 50 grand. And what I learned is you really need the control for outbound sales and the buy-in. So I had a head of sales that didn't believe that it worked. And we had, issues there. But once I had the right leader and the control, it really opened up our ability to hunt. So instead of just praying that the right lead came in, it allowed us to go upstream, allowed us to do some account-based marketing really effectively. So I wish that I would have went in-house with outbound sales earlier on. And I spent probably well over $1 million trying to learn that lesson.
That's crazy. And that's something that we're currently going through at SEO for Hire. I'd love to know more about the outbound sales. Was it phone calls? Was it LinkedIn? What was it?
There's so much to it that it starts with the list, right? Your sales enablement role. A lot of times when you try to outsource it, they control the list. They're pulling lists from Zoom Info, or they're pulling lists from Apollo and a number of different tools. It's not vetted. Those that use a CRM, whether it's HubSpot, Salesforce, Pipedrive, you have an abundance of contacts there that can be a starting point. And so I think number one is control the list and the target. That's where most individuals make a huge mistake. And number two, it's just consistency. And I'll tell you this, and quality hires. So all of our BDRs, almost nearly all of them, are former President's Club winners at other organizations. We recruited all of them. There's not a single Indeed pray that a good person comes in. They're all killers. We have really high standards, and then they're super competitive. And it's just when you have these individuals and the talent in-house, you can control them a little bit better. So what I found when I worked with these 2 outsourced companies, and I don't want to throw them under the bus, they're good people, but I would get a great rep on my account, and as soon as they started killing it, they would be promoted off my account, whether to a mid-management role, maybe they were doing their own sales, or to another bigger enterprise account, and I'd have to teach them the whole new person, the product market fit, our value props, and everything. So I don't know of anyone. I'm sure there's some commission-only sales reps that are saying they can do it, but I've just found that you need the control if you're going to try to tackle this yourself.
Yeah. And in terms of, so when you brought that in-house, obviously you said that they're very experienced, so I'm sure they've got their own techniques and stuff, but was it maybe like trying to find clients or potential clients that had a similar case study that you guys could show on that? Or was it just having a crazy offer? Did you guys offer free audits? What was the offer that you guys had?
A lot of it goes into that, right? It's you need to have your proof, your case studies, and that trust component, right? The proof over promises is what I like to say. So anybody can make promises, but if you have the proof to show it, it really validates that you're the choice. The one thing that I'll say in the agency space, people discard product market fit. I would say if I'm going to say anything in this interview that people should listen to, it's this what I'm about to say right now. Selling SEO services is not product market fit. It is what is the offer that you can give to your ideal persona at what price point that works for them. That's why the niche agencies sometimes discover this by accident, but I think that there is a process that would save many people tons of time, would improve their win rate, would allow larger deal sizes if they would just take the time to discover product market fit through customer surveys and data, through employee surveys and data, through can I cuss on this podcast?
Yeah.
I say the customers, the C's, and then the cunts, right? The assholes that left you the negative reviews, like get information from them. And then your prospects, right? A podcast can be an excellent feedback loop too. So you need to get all this information to understand, to craft the perfect offer. It's like Hormozi says, like the $100 million offer book. Hypothetically, if I had a bad sales rep, but I had an amazing offer and we stacked our offers up against our competitors and ours better, they're going to choose us. And I think so many people discard product market fit. They kind of scrap some SEO offer together and try to present it, but there needs to be more thought put into that.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned Hormozi's offer. One thing we did recently, so we've got a headhunting agency that specializes in SEO. And in terms of our offer, we used to have a probation period that was 3 months. So if anything went wrong, we'd replace that person for 3 months. And I was in the sauna in Portugal talking to a load of business owners about this. And one of them just said, why don't you do a year risk-free, a year guarantee on the placement? And I was like, well, that's too crazy. And then I read Hormozi's $100 million offers that week. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is a fit, which is cool that you mentioned it. But my last question about sales before moving on, Chris, is, again, I've experienced this. So you guys are hiring very, very experienced people, and it sounds like you put a lot of thought into your hiring. Do you guys have the model of hire slow, fire fast, especially in sales? Like it's all about results. How does it work when you're hiring a salesperson?
I think there's some wisdom in that. I would say we hire fast and fire fast. I'm type A. I just am. I took the DISC personality assessment. I used to be DI for the longest time. Now I don't have the I. I'm just straight driver, straight captain. So when someone's not working out, we got to let them go. When they're insubordinate, when they're missing quota, when you want to be as objective as possible. I talked to our head of revenue, Zach, and I asked, I'm like, well, what if we promote someone and then they miss quota? Are you gonna demote them and let them go back to their prior role? And he said something that's just stuck with me. He's like, no, we don't want to set the standard that failing is acceptable. So it's you either move up or you're out at our organization. So that's how we look at it. And I know it's a little bit ruthless, but when it comes to sports, when you think about sports, you're not, if someone, even though they were great in the past and had a high batting average or hitting kinds of home runs, but they go in a bad slump for a few years, they're out. You need to constantly elevate your talent. So, and it's not the employer's responsibility to make the employee indispensable. It is their responsibility. So any employee that's listening, you should be leveling up your skills and not just take it for granted.
Quick pause. If you're getting value from this conversation about scaling agencies and hiring top talent, I want to share something that might help you. Are you struggling to find A players for your digital marketing agency? We've got you covered. For SEO experts who turn rankings into revenue, head to SEOforhire.co. For paid media specialists who boost your bottom line, check out paidmediajobs.com. And if you're looking for foot rubs, you're definitely in the wrong podcast. All right, let's jump back into the episode.
Awesome. Cool. And let's move on to cash flow. Cash flow is something that you don't hear a lot of agencies owners talk about, especially on platforms like LinkedIn. But yeah, it can be a big problem either through rapid growth or in an economic downturn that we're kind of seeing the last few years. So, Chris, how have you dealt with cash flow issues in the past, and how do you manage with them?
In the beginning, it's easy because you don't have a ton of revenue. You can kind of monitor your bank accounts and see it coming in. As you get a little bit bigger and you get more meetings, there's more dynamics. We overhired, ran into some cash flow issues. I think it was around year 4, year 5, where we accrued a little bit of temporary debt. I came across Mike Michalowicz's book, Profit First. It was recommended to me by Jacob Badsgaard, the CEO of Disruptive Advertising. And we just started implementing Profit First. So now we got multiple accounts. It's a simple mechanism for monitoring cash flow. I think that can hold water from about 0 to 10 million. Now we're at 22, 23 million, and we just hired a CFO. It's not just operating off of monthly cash flow. Now we're having to do forecasting models, budgeting, things like that. I was slow to hire the bean counters because when I want to go and try something new, I want to shell out the cash, but it's a necessary component at this size.
Awesome. Cool. And we've kind of touched on hiring a few times already, but I even seen on your website that you only hire the top 1%. So it's obviously something very, very important to you. How do you guys avoid hiring mistakes?
Well, we don't entirely. I think it's just the nature of the beast, right? People can interview well. You can't, until you get to really see them from an execution standpoint and see what they're made of. They got to do the work. So we do personality assessments. We do DISC. We used to do predictive index. I'm not a fan of that one as much. We've done things like Colby and strength finders, but I just find that DISC is the most accurate. And we try to, depending upon the role, start them out doing the craft and like a probationary period if we can. Like if it's a designer, design some stuff for us. We'll pay you for it. We'll see if you have your look, you have the good work ethic. If you're a SEO specialist, maybe publish and optimize some content, do the craft, and then make the hiring decision. But then we do a 30, 60, 90 day. We have strict KPIs. Every single role at our company, every single role has at least 4 KPIs that are measured on a weekly basis, every role. And so we're really strict on the data. The bigger we've got, the more important data's been.
Awesome. And I had Harry Sander, who owns Studio Hawk, on the podcast recently, and he mentioned that he was originally the CEO and he stepped back, found a CEO, and then he was more of the founder because he doesn't like KPIs, he doesn't like people management. Was there a time within the 13 years that you've ran Rankings.io where you had to hire a position where it felt really weird and it felt really weird, like delegating things? Have you gone through that?
Good question. I personally have not. I have always led and delegated through people, not abdication. I was most resistant to give up marketing. I was fine with giving up sales, giving up the operations and delivery and things like that. I tell my team and my leadership, look, the moment that we don't grow, I'll fire myself. But until then, you guys are stuck with me. And so that's the standard that I hold myself to. So we've never had a down year ever, including COVID. We've always increased. Inc. 5000 last 7 years in a row. We're definitely hitting it the 8th year. We doubled our revenue this year compared to last year. That's the standard. So I have very high standards for myself and the people that we hire.
That's amazing. Well done.
Thank you.
Very, very good. And in terms of team structure, so I talk to a lot of agency owners that they're either starting or they've experimented 5 different team structures with the pod structures, with no account managers, all different type of things. What team structure works for Ranking.io?
We're very top-down hierarchical. I like it. So I have went deep. If you want to see images and folders on my phone and different organizational structures and how to do things and the pros and cons, the span and control and pods versus teams, pods being cross-functional units, the benefit there is communication, alignment. There, you can manage a P&L from a pod more effectively. The downside is extreme expertise. And so we have we like the top down. So we have all of our paid in one group, all of our SEO in one group, because we find that the ladder, the career progression, that up and out, it really creates killers. The downside is the communication. There's more silos. But for us, that's why it's worked really effective. I'll also say just another point. When you're a smaller organization, it's more challenging to create these cross-functional pods. A lot of times you may outsource some of the deliverables, whether it's the link from an SEO perspective, the links or the content. And you really need to have more of the capabilities in-house to go fully cross-functional. And I find that if you do that, you're going to be hiring more. So you need HR, you need recruiters, you need those KPIs. So I think that early on, in my opinion, it's more challenging to do the cross-functional pod setup.
Cool. Awesome. And so you guys have been running for nearly 12 years. What is one thing that you wish you knew at the start that you know now?
I would say there's a couple things. I mentioned product market fit. I wish that I would have never, ever offered geographic exclusivity. It's so like, it's a joke in the space. All these people like put it up on, that they're honorable or some value of only taking one client in the market. But here's the thing. All your clients have different objectives. We know from a local SEO perspective, after 3 to 4 miles, they don't rank in the same capacity. I mean, look at all these local Falcon searches. And here's the big one. If you're actually good and you keep your clients, we don't want to restrict our clients' ability to grow. So if you have a client in Miami that wants to go to Austin, we want to help them. We don't want to say, oh, Austin's taken. Let me introduce you to a new agency. It's such a joke. People hold this like high standard exclusivity, but it's just garbage. Sorry, went on a little rant there.
No, it's all right. And let's get into niching down then. So I know in America you guys call it niching, but so you guys just specialize in law firms. How did you choose that? Like, did you? How much research did you do before that?
Good question. I, back in the day, was an affiliate marketer. I had like 100 sites from every niche possible, and then I got hit by one of those early algorithm updates that kind of nuked my income. And I worked at 3 agencies, and I worked with physicians, home services, lawyers. So I really worked with a lot. So I had a lot of experiences, and I found that I really liked working with lawyers. They were really growth oriented. They had more willingness to pay, to invest. And so at the very beginning in 2013, we were attorney rankings. I dropped that. Now we're just rankings, but we've been with legal since day one. The one thing I'll say, just to be candid or a little vulnerable, it's also like my parents weren't exactly thrilled that I was going out and starting an agency, and I had a very secure job. And I think there's a status component of doing market for lawyers that kind of was a little bit easier on that side, just being candid and kind of vulnerable there.
Awesome. And in terms of, see, when you guys are hiring, this is something that me and the team were talking about recently. A lot of our clients, if they do specialize in a specific niche, they want somebody with that industry background. And not all the time, but when you guys are hiring, is it favorable if somebody has done work in the law niche before?
Absolutely. It's rare that we find that individual, but absolutely. I mean, not especially if on the account management side, having a broader, knowledge set on their goals, their problems, things of that nature. But it's very rare. I'd say, we're approaching 100 employees right now. Only a handful have legal expertise and a legal background. It's like they've developed it at the company.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned that this year, every year that you guys have been running, you've been growing revenue, and this year you're doubling down. So I don't know if this question is for you, but has there been a time that you've kind of stunted the agency growth, or maybe there was a hurdle in the way? What kind of strategy did you help to break you through that?
Well, we've never not grown. So we've grown every year, but I would say I was a little bit more resistant to bring the sales all in-house. I touched on that earlier. I should have done that earlier. I like a lean and mean team, and It's easier. You don't have as many meetings and people things and issues. But I wish I would have thought about that and took that more serious and brought that full sales organization. A sales organization, the sales role is unique. If you need another extra SEO specialist, you need some capacity to do the work. That's one thing. But typically, a sales team is not just an AE. It's not just a sales manager. There's multiple roles and functions that you need to fill to really make it thrive. And just establishing a budget and doing that earlier would have been beneficial a few years ago.
Awesome. And yeah, Chris, from chatting with you and seeing a lot of your socials, you're constantly going. What keeps you ticking?
I like the game. I sound like Hermosi. I don't have, I'm going to sound like a lame-o, but I don't really have a ton of hobbies and sports and things. Like, I enjoy the game. I enjoy business. So it's the competition. Our leadership L10 is not the leadership L10. It's the war room. Our core values are not team player. It's foxhole mentality, true grit, play to win. This is my game. So that's what keeps me going.
Awesome. Well, look, man, I really, really enjoyed this. I think there's a lot of value in this. So thank you for coming on. Of course, I'll put all the links below so people can find you. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, we'll be releasing episodes every single week, so subscribe to join us on the journey. We also have a free resource in the links where I asked 55 agency owners what's actually working in 2024, all anonymously. No fluff, no theory, just real data. So that'll be in the links below, or check out some of our other videos. See you in the next one.